Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty, Episode 7, The Force Awakens. My name is Brendan, and we are joined today with our co-host, Tyler. Tyler, how the heck you feeling, my man?
Feeling great, Brendan. Halfway through the week as usual, man. Another podcast, another great football night. How you doing tonight?
Oh, man. Just like you said, we're almost to the weekend. You know I love doing these shows with you. Tonight, we're doing something a little different. It's a little bit weird for us. We're recording video. I know all of our listeners have been dying to see how we look and what we look like. So here we are, you guys. I hope this is what you expected. Two studs, one with a rockin' mullet and one of the world's largest 80s horror VHS collection. Is that correct, Tyler?
It's both DVD and VHS, but oh man, there's a plethora of rare VHS up there.
Oh, man. See, so Tyler is a man of culture, a man of so much swag, whereas I am just a basic youngin' who's just trying to get by. But Tyler, I'm stoked, man. This is great. I'm happy that we'll be able to record. And for everybody listening right now, we will be going onto a new platform. We will upload our videos to YouTube, so you can go ahead and watch and listen to our videos there. Tyler, if you're all set, man, I'd love to jump in.
Let's dive in, man. We had a fun weekend, so let's get rolling.
Cool. So as always, we are going to recap the week. This past week of the NFL was week 10. Tyler, a lot of things happened. The first thing I want to really showcase and highlight was that Hail Murray dropping nukes. That Hail Mary game-winning touchdown from Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins. He mossed 3 DBs. That was insane, man. What did you think about that?
A whole lot going on there with the Hail Murray and the nukes. I love it. That was a crazy end of the game, obviously. I mean, you really thought Josh Allen on the other side had come down and led his team to an improbable win. Great play there for them, only to have it come back and Murray steal the game. Yeah, that was insane. I mean, honestly, how many times does a Hail Mary work? Obviously, not very often. And man, you go back and you look at the highlights of that, just how Hopkins got that. And I heard a couple interviews that Hopkins is not a real rah guy. Just kind of in the locker room said, it's my job to make that catch. And, that's what he did. He went out there and made that catch. But, man, I watched that replay so many times. And even the off-balance throw by Murray, when he rolled out, that play was just insane. Probably play of the year in the NFL. It could be play of the year in all of sports. But, kind of getting back to the dynasty side, obviously, we've talked about it till we're blue in the face a couple weeks in a row here that Murray is just a stud, man. He's a top asset in super flex, and even in a 1 QB. I said it last week. He has solidified himself as a top 3 quarterback asset. It's kind of tough to argue. I mean, I don't think he's quite at Mahomes' level yet, but Murray's had no dip in production this year. He's just been an absolute monster, whereas Mahomes has been a little up and down for him. So, again, we talked about it. It's not a good time to go buy Murray in any sense. It's a really bad time. You got to let him simmer a little bit, but what a fantastic asset. What a fun player to watch.
Yeah, Mahomes 2 years ago had a crazy season at quarterback. Well, every year he does. Last year it was Lamar Jackson's time. Now it's Kyler Murray's turn. I mean, just such great football. If you have him on your fantasy football team, you are absolutely thrilled, and you are not selling for anything less than a full roster of starting players. So big congratulations to everyone that has him on their team. Same goes for DeAndre Hopkins. Tyler, a lot of talk this offseason was, DeAndre Hopkins, his value is going down because he's already 27, 28, going to be 29 or whatever it is. This guy is elite, and he has many more elite years left. Same for Julio Jones, for that matter. Same for Devontae Adams, obviously. In the dynasty community, once these players hit this certain age, it's like a perceived age that they're automatically on the decline. So I want to make it very clear that age is just a number, unless you're a running back. We're only talking wide receivers right now. But
Fair.
These studs can play deep into their, well, maybe not deep, but into their early 30s, 31, 32. So I'm still holding Nuke, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones as top elite wide receivers. So I just wanted to throw that out there, Tyler, make sure we could set the record straight. Let's jump in. We've got running back mania. A lot of great running back play this week as well. Josh Jacobs awakens and finds a great week of production versus Denver. He had a stat line of 21 carries, 112 yards, 2 tutties, rushed for 5.3 yards per carry, even had 4 receptions, which is pretty nice to see from him. Ronald Jones, arguably one of our favorite players to talk about. Not, I know he's one of your favorite players. No way mine, man. I still can't trust that guy. He's the current running back 6, believe it or not. He also joined and made history. He joined 3 other running backs in NFL history to break out a 98-yard touchdown run against Carolina this past weekend. Had a really nice stat line of 23 carries, 192 total yards on the ground, 1 tutty, and Tyler, you ready? A whopping 8.3 yards per carry. I think that's incredible. I don't know, man. You think Ronald Jones is the real deal? We probably switch to yes to no every single week. What are we doing with Rojo here, man?
I mean, I think I've said it for weeks. Yeah, Ronald Jones is just a hold for me. You know, he's improved this year. He improved last year. He's still extremely young. He was very young when he came into the NFL, as I mentioned. He was young even for a rookie. So I think he's a nice hold. I think you're going to have to live with his up and down weeks and the discrepancies in carries. Again, we kind of made fun of it last week that maybe it's Tom Brady, maybe it's not the coaching staff of New England that we blamed all these years, that if you have a good week, you don't touch the ball again next week. But, nobody's probably going to give that much for Jones. So I see no reason to move him. Again, he's still young. Fournette's not going to be there next year. Fournette does not look good on the opposite side. So I can't quite figure out what they're doing with their running backs there. But maybe they're keeping Jones fresh for the playoffs, or who knows. But I think he's got to be in your starting lineup depending on your depth at running back again. But, hey, you got to live with the up and down weeks. Getting back to who you started this with, Josh Jacobs. There's no way he's not in everybody's lineup every week. But, Josh Jacobs has not had great weeks. This was his best performance since week 1. I mean, the owners were finally paid off for starting him every week. And hopefully you didn't panic on Josh Jacobs. Hopefully you held him. To me, he's a top 10 RB asset, always has been. He's just a little bit up and down. And I truthfully think Josh Jacobs is going to get better as time goes. The wide receiver core is young for Las Vegas and a little bit unproven. So I think if Ruggs and Edwards, kind of hit their stride next year, I think Josh Jacobs is going to get better and better. Mm-hmm. So, I think with how much people throw the ball in the NFL anymore, outside of just a handful of guys, a CMC, Derrick Henry, who's even had a couple bad weeks, you just got to live with the up and down of running backs. It's just the way it is in the current NFL. Outside of CMC, I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And when you've got solid RBs, you just got to roster them. And they're honestly a big component to winning championships. If you have 1 or
Absolutely.
2 stud RBs, then you're looking really solid regardless of the rest of your roster. Obviously, another running back that had a great performance is my boy Nick Chubb. Fantastic showing against the Texans. 19 carries, 126 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, a nasty, in a good way, 6.6 yards per carry. Man, Nick Chubb is just a baller when he's on the field. I'm not really too worried about Kareem Hunt being there because Chubb still puts up running back 1 numbers. And, he even chose to down himself before reaching the end zone at the end of the game there. He could have had 2 touchdowns. The guy is a smart athlete. He cares about the team winning, which to me, I mean, it doesn't help fantasy football wise, but to me, I mean, that's an overall great guy to have on your roster. I don't know what better player you'd want on your team. So Nick Chubb, honestly, I'm super high on him. I put him top 5, man. And that's me. That's me putting him super high up there. I know that's not necessarily the consensus.
No, I'm with you. I love Nick Chubb. Super humble guy, super just down-to-earth guy. I've watched a couple specials on him. I've listened to his interviews. Just, that not that that matters in a fantasy asset, but that's a guy that you're probably never going to have to worry about getting in trouble in the off season. He's probably not going to the club. He's probably not doing some of the things that some of the other guys are doing, and that's great. But yeah, getting back to his game, absolutely fantastic to see him out there. Like you mentioned with Hunt, again, I hope nobody panicked with Nick Chubb going to IR. I know some people just they worry when guys get hurt. They worry when other guys emerge. We've seen it all season. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are both RB1s. Depending on your format, I think right now Kareem Hunt is the RB6. So they can both be productive in their offense the same week, the same time. There's nothing to worry about there. I have Nick Chubb, top 5, top 7 asset, just like you. And I don't know if you listened to his interview. It was really funny when he stepped out of bounds. He said he literally almost forgot that he wasn't supposed to score because he just kind of opened up, saw that green in front of him. And at the last second, his interview, he said, you can't stop 230 pounds of full momentum. So even if he kneeled, he was still going to score. So he just had to veer straight out of bounds, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, Nick Chubb, great play for his team. But yeah, he hurt a lot of fantasy lineups this weekend by stepping out of bounds, is my guess.
Yeah, he did not pull a Todd Gurley, so Nick Chubb is getting brownie points there.
That's the
Cool.
first thing that came to my head was Todd Gurley. He must have been watching his former Bulldog teammate there.
Yeah, it's not all about racking up them fantasy points. Awesome, Tyler. Real quick, I don't have much to recap about particular games. I just wanted to kind of read out some scores that stood out to me, some notable games. The Rams beat the Seahawks, which, I mean, is a pretty good game. I mean, that was a battle of two teams that honestly have a chance to go deep in the playoffs. So the Rams beat the Seahawks 23-16. The Vikings, of course, beat the Bears 19-13. The Bears offense is just horrendous. Plus Nick Foles now is probably out with who knows what, broken hip, an issue with his spine. I really don't know. It didn't look too good. They sat him up on the cart when they wheeled him out. So Bears offense is just not going to get it done. They have to rely on their special teams getting kickoff touchdowns and then their defense getting turnovers. Lastly, the third game I had highlighted here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers absolutely rolled the Carolina Panthers 46-23. Real quick, Tyler, anything jump out to you? Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things just real quick on each game. I'm going to stick to kind of the top end dynasty assets. Wilson was flat all game. Obviously, DK laid a dud. No reason to read anything into the performances from either one of those guys, in my opinion. Set and forget for both of them moving forward. It's just a bad week. You got to live with that in fantasy. As far as the Vikings game went, yeah, first and foremost, hopefully Nappy D was doing okay. He looked really hurt on the ground, which was scary, but looked to be in decent spirits on the cart, so that's good. Chicago's offense is they're just bad, which is unfortunate because they have a championship defense that is getting wasted on the other side of the ball. As you
Tell me
mentioned,
about it, bro.
yeah, I mean, you know it well. Unfortunately, your mom knows it well, man. Hopefully, she's not wearing shorts the rest of her life. You don't need that in that kind of winter. But
Hey, until the Bears win another Super Bowl, baby.
it's
Yeah, they're
coming,
they're
man.
not doing well right now.
We got to root for your mom here more than anything. But yeah,
Exactly.
as you mentioned with the kickoffs, I mean, at least they've got arguably the best kick returner in the NFL. So hopefully they can get some points there. Just for this year, with the current quarterback situation, I'd be a little bit concerned about Robinson moving forward as we push towards the fantasy playoffs. I'm not 100% sure he's a set and forget anymore, depending on what happens with the QB position. Obviously, he gets a ton of targets, so that helps, but I'd be a little cautious with Robinson if you're in a must-win game to get into the playoffs in a couple weeks here or in round one of the playoffs. On the other side, Justin Jefferson, we talked about it before we got going, man. That kid just looks unreal with the ball in his hands. Super special talent. Again, we talked about rookies weeks ago. You got to live with the up and down. Jefferson does not always have the best games, but hey, man, when he does, that kid just looks so smooth with the ball in his hand. And then your final game, the Buccaneers game, yeah, Brady got back to being Brady, played super well, looked good. The offense looked good. I've maintained all year through injuries and up and downs that Evans and Godwin are still fantastic dynasty assets. I would hold both of them easily. As far as Antonio Brown goes, he had a pretty solid week. I think he caught 7 balls, so pretty good. I would sell Brown immediately for a very good offer that is bound to come in because I just don't see it with him. I think he'll keep it together, but in the offseason, I don't know what happens with Antonio Brown. I think he's
Hmm.
probably okay this year, but I would sell high on Brown the second I got an intriguing offer personally.
Yeah, even a mediocre offer. I think he's done. This is the last value spike.
Agreed, 100%.
Cool. Yeah, so I think if the Bucks can get past the Saints, then they have a real shot at contending for a Super Bowl this year as well. So real exciting stuff. So yeah, excellent week. The NFL is always entertaining. Lots going on. Tyler, let's move into some waiver pickups. I created a small list. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of list off these guys. No particular order. I'd like to hear your overall thoughts. If you have any additions or if there's somebody that you were kind of iffy about, I'd love to hear about it. So, of course, Nyheim Hines, running back for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a boomer bust player at this point in time, but the Colts are trusting him a lot in the backfield. Jonathan Taylor is not getting the ball too often. He seems like Hines seems like he's a guy that will get more and more carries or passes. So he's making some good production out of what he originally had as limited carries. Wayne Gallman, running back for the Giants, the guy's like the RB3 for the past 3 weeks combined. So I think he's doing a great job. He's finding the end zone at least once a game. So he is a super cheap plug and play. Don't think Devontae Freeman will come back getting much production. There's no point in moving Gallman out of that main RB1 role in New York. Salvon Ahmed, my goodness. Again, we probably didn't know this guy. If we didn't know, you guys probably didn't know. This guy kind of came out of nowhere once Myles Gaskin went down. The Dolphins just released Jordan Howard, which was a little funky. I know his yards per carry was incredibly weak, but this guy must be getting it done. They trust him to at least hold the spot until Myles Gaskin comes back. The Dolphins are still in contention. They're looking pretty decent this year with Tua. Next up to receivers, Jakobi Meyers, wide receiver for New England. He had another great game. He even threw a touchdown. So past 2 weeks, he's got, I think, 1 receiving touchdown and 1 passing touchdown, which is pretty great fantasy-wise. Who cares how he gets involved with the touchdown as long as he's involved. So I like him here. Cole Beasley, super safe floor. A lot of people in Dynasty don't like him because he doesn't have a high ceiling. People just – these players that are super safe, for example, Cole Beasley like this, like Tyler, I see it all the time. They don't carry any value. Well, 1, because he's a little bit older, but 2, people love just going for the high reward play a lot of this times. So I don't know, man. He seems super cheap to me, and I'd get him for a 3rd-round pick. He's going to get you 10 points a week. The Bills are producing at a pretty high level at the moment. So if he's on the waivers, definitely snag him. Lastly, you probably like this guy, Tim Patrick, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He's another guy that's been playing pretty dang well that you probably picked up on the waivers earlier this year. And if not, I would go grab him right now. Great plug and play. Some of these teams during the last few weeks of the NFL, aka during the fantasy football playoffs, they're going to bench some of their studs. If they're already clinched or if they're out, there's no reason for them to play and risk injury to their studs. So a guy like Tim Patrick could step up big time. A guy like, I don't know, Nyheim Hines, like maybe the Colts clinch. I don't think they will. I'm not too sure what the standings are in that division, but it's one of these things where these cheap guys will help you and provide depth. So Tyler, I named off quite a bit. What are your thoughts overall?
Great list. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be dependent on your format, how deep your league is, how deep your rosters are. In our big league, all these guys are owned already. So, again, comes down to kind of your format. Yeah, Nyheim Hines is risky just because of the pass catching side, but man, in a pinch or bye week or injuries, you could do a heck of a lot worse than Hines because, yeah, amazingly, he does seem to be the guy over Jonathan
It's
Taylor, which,
weird.
yeah, I still can't figure out. But hey, this is how you win leagues. You gotta have some depth. You gotta have some guys you can plug in to bind. Wayne Gallman was a good call. A little TD dependent, but man, he's getting in the end zone, so it doesn't really matter if he's TD dependent. Nobody else is getting touchdowns, so
Mhm.
good call there. Ahmed is the most intriguing of the three running backs you named, at least for me, based on his workload last week. He got a lot of carries. His yards per carry was not great.
Mhm.
Obviously, he found the end zone on what was that, a fumble or a muffed punt or something that, they were on the 1 yard line just immediately. So, uh, but hey, a TD is a TD. I love his workload. The kid was phenomenal at Washington. I don't know if many of you guys watched his tape from Washington. He was phenomenal in college. So great asset. Could be even a good asset moving forward. Miles Gaskin has been solid, but not great. Who knows what this team does next year? Ahmed could be their starter next year for all we know, and you could pick him up for nothing, dirt cheap, whatever. Jakobi Meyers, unquestionably the guy in New England. I think there's no denying that now. Not sure what happened to your boy N'Keal Harry, but hopefully he
I had
hopefully
dumped him on you, man.
hopefully he gets going. But Myers is definitely their guy. He's put together some solid weeks, a lot of target share, so that's big. Sometimes all you need is volume, even as a wideout. We talk about it with
Mhm.
running backs, but hey, volume's important for wideouts too. Cole Beasley's a little up and down, but I agree with you. He's got a really nice floor. This weekend, his ceiling was very big, which isn't always the case. But yeah, these are guys that, there's a ton of injuries, COVID, everything that's going on that these are guys you need on your roster this year, maybe more than ever. And yeah, they're not a great looking plug into your lineup that you're looking at your lineup up and down saying, man, my team is just stacked. But that's not what it's about, especially come playoff time. And right now, the last 2-3 weeks here into round one, man, these are must wins for a lot of teams right now. So Cole Beasley's a great plug and play. Tim Patrick, as you mentioned, I'm actually not a Tim Patrick guy because he steals targets from Judy. But hey, pretty good asset. Obviously, he's owned in our big league, being outside of you and a couple guys being a Denver-based league. So he was definitely owned and drafted in our league. But I just think the Denver pass game is so unpredictable right now that I'm not sure you feel safe starting any of those wideouts. But Patrick's shown to kind of be the guy when he's healthy, getting a lot of targets. So again, in a bind, hey man, you could do a lot worse. You're kind of in that point of the season where sometimes you don't have the best options right now.
Yeah, you just have to roll with what's available. Pick one
Roll it.
running back and one wide receiver off that list out of all of them that you'd rather have on your roster.
Again, I like Ahmed. I think the safest on that list is Hines. I don't think his workload's going anywhere. Ahmed to me has the biggest upside, I guess you could say. And I would just take Jakobi Meyers. I think his floor is very safe, much like you mentioned with Beasley, but his
Mhm.
target share is there, whereas Beasley's maybe is not week to week.
Yeah, Jakobi Meyers has actually put up really good points the past 3 weeks, so he's moving up in the rankings. Definitely worth checking out. Excellent, Tyler. That was great. These waiver pickups are going to be critical moving forward now that the trade deadline is most likely passed in leagues or your league, or it will pass whenever that may be. Let's move into one of our favorite segments, The Wire, WYR. I'm excited, Tyler. This week, you're asking me some would you rather questions. Is that correct?
I got some doozies lined up for you, Brendan, so I hope you're ready.
Let me drink my tea out of my disappointment mug real quick.
There it is. Yeah, man, I wish I still had. I'm out here. I wish I still had
You're
some
out of
tea with you,
juice.
but
Yeah, well,
yeah,
you
I'm
don't have
out.
to. You don't have to look at your favorite team's logo after they get shredded on Monday Night Football. So cool. I'm ready when you are, man. Let's see what you got cooked up.
All right, I got some, I guess, more undercard guys this week. Maybe not as top tier as we've been doing. Just some kind of, roster, not cloggers, but fillers. Guys
Mhm.
that are important to teams. So,
Sure.
out of the gate here, I pretty much just went PPR across the board. Nothing special here. Devontae Parker, wide receiver for the Dolphins, or your boy, I'm sure, Darnell Mooney, wide receiver for Chicago.
That's tough. That's real tough. Mooney has looked pretty good for not being a top prospect per se. I think Devontae Parker was overly hyped coming in to the season. I mean, he put up some pretty solid numbers at the end of last season, but I never really bought the hype. I actually don't own him in any leagues. But to a contender, I think he's more valuable than Darnell Mooney. So if I'm contending, I'd have to go Parker with the idea that hopefully he can put up wide receiver 1 numbers any given week or wide receiver 2 numbers. Darnell Mooney will never reach that this year, unfortunately. But long term, I don't know, man. I'd probably rather own Mooney. I'm sure you could get more on top of Mooney if you are sending Parker, if you're making a trade. But long-term Mooney, short-term Devontae Parker for sure.
Yeah, that's a really tough call there because, like you mentioned, Devontae Parker was beyond a sell high in the offseason and/or towards the end of last year. I mean, Fitzpatrick threw the ball 80 times a game. Obviously, that was not gonna stand up. It really interesting right now who would be valued more because there's so many in the community that do not like Devontae Parker. It would be interesting to see who was valued more overall. So good stuff there, Brendan. Next up, I've got Michael Gallup, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, or Denzel Mims, wide receiver for the Jets.
This answer could change based on the NFL draft. If Trevor Lawrence were to go to the Jets, everybody there, I mean, heck, even their offensive line gets a boost in value. I mean, Trevor Lawrence will make that team pretty good. I mean, they're not going to be obviously contenders right off the bat, but that'd be a huge, huge plus to any wide receivers there. Denzel Mims is pretty intriguing, I'd say. I mean, we haven't truly seen the full potential, but I think he is a capable wide receiver. I think the Jets will obviously draft Trevor Lawrence if he declares or whatever his drama is about playing at Clemson another year or whatever that whole situation is. What sucks right now to me is Michael Gallup is a very talented wideout. He's just in such a congested wide receiver group, and the Cowboys offense absolutely blows right now. So in terms of overall value, some like hypotheticals, if Michael Gallup were to leave the Cowboys, I think he would be a wide receiver 2 every single week because I think he's talented enough. However, I don't really see that happening. So I'm going to go Mims because I think Mims will be a better long-term player in a sense that starting even as early as next year, he will start getting a lot more production and he'll be more confident. That's probably the unpopular choice, but I would go Denzel Mims over Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I think they're pretty evenly ranked right now. I think even as awful as that offense is, I've been impressed with Mims's weekly floor. I mean, it's not been fantastic, but it's been, 4 or 5 grabs for 40 yards, 60 yards. I mean, that's pretty impressive with what they're working with. And I agree with you. I think Gallup in the right situation is a WR2. It's just, perfect situations don't seem to happen too often for fantasy assets. So,
Especially the ones you own,
oh, yeah, it's always somebody else's roster that it's like, man,
Starting running back goes down on 3 different NFL teams, just happens to be one person rosters all 3 backups. Boom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's like playing you the one week that CMC is going to play here, last week. So I get
And I
it.
think Calvin Ridley was out for you, so.
Yeah, Ridley was out, Godwin. It's been fun. So getting back to it here, I've seen this one a lot lately, whether it be on Twitter or just forums of all sorts. Jonathan Taylor or Antonio Gibson?
Wow. It's amazing that it's a lot closer than it should be. Gibson has looked really good this year. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of worry about him being kind of a gadget, scat back, or whatever you want to call him. He is really playing pretty well, and you can't argue that. For his team and his pretty bad offense, he's getting in the end zone. He's finding some good yards. Jonathan Taylor's obviously been a disappointment, but you can't rule him out. I mean, he absolutely dominated in the Big Ten in college last year. He is in arguably one of the best running back situations. But that's what worries me is he's on such a great running back team, and he's not producing. So it looks like he's just struggling and finding the open gaps. It looks like he's struggling where to run the ball exactly. It's just, to me, it's more of his IQ. I don't think it's a lack of athleticism. I don't think it's a lack of I don't think he's not capable of being competent, but long term, I still roll JT. I don't think it's time to panic on him. I think, honestly, JT is going to be a top 10 running back. I think I've said it in a prior episode. I would probably need like a first round pick on top of Antonio Gibson to move JT, believe it or not. But I'm a big Jonathan Taylor guy. So Antonio Gibson's a perfect RB2 for any team out there. Congrats if you drafted him late in the second, third round of your rookie draft. But I can't rule out Jonathan Taylor right now.
Yeah, agreed. I think now's a great time to buy Jonathan Taylor all over the place. I've seen a tremendous amount of trades going down with Jonathan Taylor that I don't get it. I'm with you. I sure wouldn't give up on a rookie of his caliber after 1 year. I think Rivers maybe hurts Taylor a little bit because it's not like he's airing it out. They don't really have to guard downfield. You kind of stack the box, but at the same time, Hines is producing. Jordan Wilkins on the ground has looked better than Taylor. So yeah, it's kind of a polarizing in a negative sense if you own him, what's going on. But I agree. I Taylor's the way to go for me as well. Gibson's finding pay dirt a lot, which is keeping his numbers pretty high. So getting into a little bit more of the heavy hitters on these last three here. DeAndre Hopkins or Devontae Adams?
I don't know, man.
Can you pick a wrong one or?
I mean, you can't go wrong with either. Devontae Adams is playing out of his freaking mind when he's healthy. I mean, it's unbelievable what he does. If DeAndre Hopkins had Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he'd be doing the exact same thing. I think DeAndre Hopkins, overall, I think he's a better wide receiver in terms of just being in the NFL. But what hurts is Kyler Murray rushes for 2 freaking touchdowns a game. That's 2 touchdowns Aaron Rodgers probably would have thrown. So I don't know. I think DeAndre Hopkins is safer in a sense where Adams has been hurt this year a little bit. Last year he missed a few games. So I think Hopkins is safer overall. But I don't think you could trade Devontae Adams straight up for any wide receiver right now in the NFL. He is just playing at way too high of a level that there's no way I would give him up for any receiver straight up. I wouldn't even give him up for DK. I know people give Devontae, they were saying give Michael Thomas for DK, DeAndre Hopkins for DK. There's no way I would trade Devontae Adams straight up for DK Metcalf. It's just, he's too good.
Fair. I like it, man. Couple solid RBs here. Aaron Jones, or I think this guy still plays in the NFL. Joe Mixon.
Oh man, why? Since they're both on your team, are you just going to try to sell the one that I say? Am I propping up the value here, Tyler?
I'm just gonna hit you up off camera, and be like, "Well, you said it on the show, so."
I'd rather own Aaron
neither
Jones.
Are for sale, by the way. Neither.
Okay, unless you get an offer that you can't decline, as always. Not necessarily everyone's on the trading block, but if a big haul rolls your way, you can't decline.
Yeah, like Devontae Adams.
Like Devontae Adams. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So everybody who's listening, hit me up. I'll buy Devontae Adams off you, all right? Yeah, man, Aaron Jones for sure over Joe Mixon, no question about it right now.
Fantastic. And my last one, Keenan Allen or Terry McLaurin?
Thought you were going to hit me with Keenan Allen or Joe Mixon right there. I know we've been talking about that a lot. Let's talk about that real quick on air. Man. Yeah, let's talk about it on air real quick. First off, I'd rather have Terry McLaurin, no doubt about it. The guy is producing at just as high of a level as Keenan Allen, and he's way younger, hasn't been injured. So Terry McLaurin for sure. I think the guy is a top 10 wide receiver in Dynasty right now. But yeah, that's kind of interesting about the Joe Mixon, Keenan Allen trade. I kind of want to talk about because we spent, honestly, hours back and forth, a lot of texts kind of figuring out what you should do there. So just for some context, you guys, Tyler owns Joe Mixon, and you're second place right now, I believe, right, in the big league?
3-way tie, 7-3.
Yeah, so basically one more win, you lock yourself into the
Yep.
playoffs. You have Aaron Jones, you have Joe Mixon, you have Alvin Kamara. So, I mean, you're pretty good at running back. But we were kind of talking if Tyler should ship Joe Mixon straight up for Keenan Allen. And Tyler, I still am unsure. I'm sure you're unsure too. I mean, it's tough, man. Have you progressed at all with your thinking? What are you thinking about it?
I've kind of put it to rest with my boy Floyd. I just kind of I'm holding. I want to see how Mixon comes back. I want to see. I like that he's locked up. He got solid money. He is their running back, which contracts for running backs we talk about all the time is a significant issue. If I were to move Mixon and then hypothetically Aaron Jones goes to a horrible situation this offseason, I'm essentially left with Alvin Kamara, and that's it. I think it left me too thin at running back, and with owning guys like Ridley, Godwin, Jefferson, Lamb, Jerry Judy, guys like that, I don't think Keenan Allen was as important to me. But that being said, I think Keenan Allen is a much better player. I think he is a better asset. I'm not sure if he was better for my build. So I say it all the time. I regret 90% of the trades I make, and I just decided, I'm going to hold. When in doubt, hold. Joe Mixon's young. He is explosive, so just hold. It's easy right now that he's been out for 4 games, maybe out this week. He's still not practicing, so I still don't understand what's going on with his day-to-day foot issue that's been day-to-day for 5 weeks. But it's easy to move a guy like that who hasn't played in a while, and then maybe he comes back and you regret that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it was very split on DLF. It was very split. So it was, I think, two interesting players. I think Keenan Allen's always undervalued, whereas I think Joe Mixon is overvalued at this point, you could say, based on what he's done. But hey, man, he explodes for huge games, and regardless if it's not consistent, not many running backs do that. So I think that speaks to his talent as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would expect something in return, or on top of Keenan Allen in return, just because of Mixon's name value as well as running back scarcity. But we do have to be honest with ourselves. When is Mixon going to produce at this elite level consistently? When is he going to be that top 5 running back? We all know he can be, but he just isn't. So it's tough, man. I would honestly prefer Keenan Allen on a contending team if my running back room was great, but I'd much rather have Joe Mixon long-term because you could flip him regardless at some point down the line, and somebody's still going to be a believer in Joe Mixon. So thank you for sharing, Tyler. I was very eager to kind of hear where you were at with that because I know we haven't spoken about it the past couple of days. So congratulations or not congratulations on not making the move. So see what the heck happens.
We'll see, man. Mixon might not play again this season. That's becoming more frustrating than anything. But to go back to your point about something being added, that's kind of where my boy and I stalled out. I asked him to add Chase Claypool, which I thought was a hefty add on top.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very high on Claypool, obviously, and he just said, this is a straight up deal. He wasn't going to add a second, a third, straight up. And that's ultimately what kind of made me just hold. Obviously, if it was Keenan Allen and Claypool, I'm making that trade. But, I think based on RB scarcity, it is fair to ask for a little more on top. But based on this year and probably the next couple with Herbert, I don't think it's fair to ask for more on top either.
Mm-hmm. I think if Chase Claypool didn't have that 4 touchdown game, it would have been a lot more realistic of an add-on or a throw-in. So
Sure.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I think we should try to reassess this trade negotiations, this trade talk at the end of next year. I'd like to give Mixon 1 full year to bounce back with a new offense and see what Herbert will do with Keenan Allen a full season as well. So cool.
Well, hopefully his foot's healed by next year.
Yeah, probably not. Day to day in the offseason.
He's day to day, man. He's day to day.
All right. Hey, I know we got some hypothetical trades lined up. How many do you have written down for me?
I tried to keep it a little bit short because I know we're kind of tight on time tonight, but I've got five. We can rip through them.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
need to
Let's
spend a
rip through
ton
them
of
real
time,
quick.
man. Yeah, a
Yeah.
couple reoccurring guys here, but I've got Ezekiel Elliott for Jonathan Taylor and a mid 2021 first.
Jonathan Taylor in a mid 2021 first. I'm thinking long term here. Get Jonathan Taylor and then snatch a probably a high end wide receiver of this upcoming draft class with that pick.
Gotcha. CeeDee Lamb for Chris Godwin.
Wow. 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 I didn't know you'd pull that type of stuff on me tonight. That's tough, man. Recency bias would play a huge factor here, and for a lot of people, because Lamb's shown that he can play big. Let's come back to it. Give me a second. I'll give an answer after the other trade ideas. That's
No
tough, man.
problem. No problem. Glad I could stump you a little bit.
Yeah, my goodness.
Amari Cooper for Chase Claypool and Michael Pittman.
Mari Cooper still a
Okay.
believer.
Yeah, I still like his talent a lot. Elite route runner.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp and an early second in 2021 for Austin Eckler.
Cooper Kupp in the second. Not a big Eckler guy. I don't think he comes back and finds his production like he used to. Herbert's not going to use him how Rivers did, and that was a specialty. I'm sorry, the dump offs, the screen passes, that was Eckler's specialty, just to clarify. I don't think that's Herbert's game.
Agreed. And Deontay Johnson for Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson, whether he finds a new team or whether the Bears still suck, I mean, he has still put up a pretty good year. He's a top 10 wide receiver with pretty horrible QB play. Deontay Johnson is emerging, so if you do want him, you have to go buy him like now. If you wait to the offseason, you're not going to get him. But Allen Robinson still holds it down. The guy is elite in my books, especially in actual NFL gameplay. Some of the catches that guy makes is absolutely insane. And he lays out nonstop. He makes just great two-step catches, right before going out of bounds. The guy is a really good pass catcher in the NFL.
Absolutely. Back to the $1 million question, my man. CD for the TD or Chris Godwin?
I was thinking about it the past, I don't know, minute, and I'd go CeeDee Lamb. Here's why. CeeDee Lamb is a little bit younger. I think he is. I think he's got to be like a year younger, maybe 2 years. But also, Tampa Bay's wide receiver room is very crowded right now. If they make it deep into the playoffs, Tom Brady might come back. I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, he's getting pretty good protection. The team is primed for a Super Bowl contention. CeeDee Lamb, however, has shown that he can be a stud receiver, even with other guys there that can catch the ball. If Dak Prescott comes back, which it'd be bogus if they don't offer him a big deal to get him back on the field. It's basically been proven the Cowboys need Dak. Let me just throw that out there. The Cowboys have been awful without Dak Prescott. I think they're going to pay him big bucks, and CeeDee Lamb could potentially be a top 5 wide receiver next year. So I'd go Lamb in the end.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a tough one because it seems like he's been around forever. But man, Chris Godwin's only 24. I think that's pretty wild,
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously he's been hurt most of the year, whereas last year he was flat unobtainable. So yeah, we talk about it all the time. The stock market, man, it's
Up
all
and
over the
down.
place in Dynasty.
Teeter-totter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. I think CeeDee Lamb right now would be a top 10 receiver had Dak not got hurt. So
Couldn't agree more. And CeeDee Lamb's only 21 years old, just for the record.
Yep. He's young.
Cool, man. Cool. Hey, well, that is probably the toughest hypothetical trade segment that you've had for me. So thank you for that. Made my brain work for a little bit today.
Hey, you should be shutting it off, man. It's late,
Hey, I would shut it off, but I got to jump into the juicy matchups, baby. So juicy matchup is up next. Let's roll the clip. Boom. So real quick, I want to throw out there, I am never picking a juicy matchup with the Cleveland Browns a part of it, or even Baker Mayfield being a part of it ever again. Last week, I completely flopped. I think the Texans versus the Browns is the juicy matchup. I blame the weather. the weather, the delayed, and I also blame Baker Mayfield. That guy sucks. The
That
curse of
clip of Mayfield during the national anthem was amazing, man. He was just loving the ice storm that was going on. I found that pretty funny.
Dude, I'm so done with him. You know, he shouldn't have done the Hulu commercial so early in his career. He cursed himself. If you do commercials that early in your NFL career, it's downhill from there. So yeah, never
Yep.
picking Baker Mayfield again unless he's playing Kansas. You know, I would love to see him beat Kansas again in college, like 42 to like 3 after they didn't shake his hand. So that's the only time I'll pick him in a juicy matchup ever again. But here we go, Tyler. You ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right, this one's a funky one because I did not pick it based on how good or bad the defense is against opposing offenses. This one is solely based on that these two teams have played before in the past, and it was a huge scoring game, showing both sides are capable of putting up big numbers. So if they play, I know there was some risk due to COVID-19 affecting certain players on one of these teams, but if they play, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Las Vegas Raiders. For those of you that remember, the Raiders actually upset the Chiefs a few weeks back and gave the Chiefs their first loss, their only loss so far this season. So it was a crazy matchup when these teams met earlier. The Raiders actually beat them 40-32. They put up 72 total points, Tyler. That is a massive, massive scoreboard right there. Hashtag scoreboard. Check it.
Hashtag scoreboard. We're
All
not
right.
talking
So,
about T. Higgins either.
yeah, not talking about T. Higgins, even though that guy's a legend already in its own. So you can book that. All right. So the Raiders. So just to give you a little bit of some stat lines from the previous game when they met. Derek Carr went 22 for 31, 347 passing yards, 3 teeters, 1 interception. Really good line right there against the Chiefs. Josh Jacobs had 23 carries, 77 rushing yards, 2 tutties. This was when Henry Ruggs had that super long touchdown grab, 2 receptions, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. Nelson Aguilar, surprisingly, caught a ball, I guess. I mean, it's good to hear his name get called once in a while, I guess. That's a roster clogger if I ever seen one. Two receptions for 67 yards, 1 tutty, and then Darren Waller, straight up legend. Honestly, I love Waller. 5 receptions, 48 yards, 1 touchdown. So the thing to note here is the Raiders actually had a great offensive game against a pretty tough Kansas City Chiefs defense. So they're going to be hungry. They want to repeat. They're in contention. I mean, they could get a wild card spot in the playoffs. They're looking pretty dang good this season. And I don't think they're talked about as often as they should be, especially Derek Carr, who's pretty accurate so far passing the ball this year. Now for the Chiefs, last time they met the Raiders earlier this season, Patrick Mahomes, I mean, this isn't going to surprise anybody, went 22 for, I think, 43. It's pretty low accuracy for him, but still 340 passing yards, 2 tutties, 1 pick. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, this was the start of him kind of disappointing people. 10 carries, 40 yards, yuck. Don't want to see that again. Tyreek Hill, 3 receptions, 78 yards. Mecole Hardman, 2 receptions, 50 yards. And then, of course, Travis Kelce just absolutely shredded. 8 receptions, 108 yards, and 1 touchdown. So the Chiefs are obviously not going to want to lose again, especially to the one team that beat them earlier this season. Mahomes is honestly just too good, Tyler. This season, he has racked up 2,687 passing yards. Let me put that into perspective. That is 331 passing yards a game. The guy averages over 331 or over 300 passing yards a game. That's freaking wicked, man. That is Hall of Fame numbers right there in my eyes. 25 touchdowns on the season to only 1 pick, right? And actually, that pick was in this game to the Raiders, believe it or not. So we'll see if he throws a second one this season to one of the Raiders DBs. Now, moving to the opposite side, Derek Carr plays some pretty accurate football, as I just mentioned. This season, 2,156 passing yards, 240 yards a game is what it averages out to, and 16 total touchdowns passing this year and only 2 picks. So obviously not as high of a caliber offensive weapon as Mahomes, but if Derek Carr can control the game, really move the offense in a slow pace to keep Mahomes off the field, they have a big shot at winning this game. If they just have a shootout, then we'll see another 70-point game, which I'm predicting it. I think it's going to be a pretty big game. Both defenses are middle of the pack to good, all around. So we'll see, man.
Let's book it, man. Without Mayfield, I think it's a very nice, juicy matchup prediction there. I'm going to pop in here, Brendan, and just let everybody know that we're actually introducing a short 30-40 minute segment on Sundays. So that is where we will do our stardom sit-ems moving forward here. So everybody be watching for another video Sunday morning before the games. We'll get up early to make sure everybody knows exactly what they need to do to lock up a victory. So
cool. I'm excited, Tyler, especially now that we got the video going. People can see our raw facial expressions and really get to the nitty gritty stuff. So I like it.
oh, it's going to be great, man. We're both going to be looking all busted Sunday morning. Can't believe that work's coming up in a day, so.
Might even have to wear a blazer, bro. I don't know. Might have to wear a full-on tuxedo.
I might wear a suit one of these days.
Cool. Tyler, before we move into the last segment, hot takes and bold predictions, real quick, I'd like to throw out, we're very active on Twitter. You can find us at Halfback Dynasty. You can tweet out any type of content you want us to speak about, or if you have any lineup questions, waiver wire questions, things of that nature. You can find us on DLF, of course, dynastyleaguefootball.com. My name is McCaffsteys. Tyler, you are?
Gator Sons.
Boom, the legendary Gator Sons, 5-star Hall of Famer on that website. Big shout out to you. You can email us, halfbackdynasty@gmail.com. So a lot of ways that you can find us. We're even on Instagram. We're about to go on YouTube so you can see these live videos of us. But yeah, we really want to interact with the community. We want to help you out. We want to give you our honest advice, our honest opinions, and hopefully make some good choices for you. Tyler, hot takes and bold predictions. We're moving pretty slowly here in terms of racking up our overall record. So what were your takes last week and how many did you get right?
I'm just seeing $100 come out of my pocket already for next year. I might as well just pay your entry fee now. Last week I had the GOAT will have 300 plus yards passing and at least 3 total TDs, which he actually put up 351 and 4. So thank you to the GOAT for helping me out. James Conner will break 100 yards rushing. Well, he didn't even break 40. So a real solid 2.8 yards per carry. Huge fail there. And a very bold prediction here, but Robert Woods will find the end zone twice. Again, Brendan, I mentioned I was expecting one to be on a reverse. So he had 0. He had 5 catches for 33 yards. So what had to be pretty solid to get in the end zone twice. As per usual, not a great weekend for me, but that all changes tonight.
Wow. I feel like you've said that every episode. So for the record, that bumps Tyler to 3-9, 3 correct hot takes, 9 incorrect hot takes. Want to tag in right here. James Conner had a 2.8 yards per carry average. Horrendous. Real quick, Tyler, I only got 1 correct this week as well. I predicted Jared Goff will throw at least 3 passing touchdowns against the Seahawks. Surprisingly, he threw none. He threw for over 300 yards and did not have 1 touchdown in the air. And they won the game. I guess Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown are attributed that W for punching the ball in. Nick Chubb will rush for 100 yards his first game back from injury against Houston. It was fourth quarter. Game was coming down to its last few minutes. I texted you. I was like, I need like a 40-yard run for Chubb to make sure we get this hot take correct. What do you know? Bust out like a 56-yard run late in the game right there. So Nick Chubb had 19 carries, 126 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Boom, chalked up a nice dub for me there. My last pick was Eric Ebron. Pittsburgh, tight end, kind of let me down here. Said he will catch a tight end pass this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. Did not. 2 receptions, 38 yards on 6 targets. So that was kind of a flop. Tyler, that moves me to 4-8. You were sitting at 3-9. Still a really close-knit race. What are your hot takes this week? You are the current loser 2 weeks in a row, so you get to go first, my man.
Wow, current loser. You kind of took away my steam there, Brendan. I was going to give a little insight into you and I. That was so funny that you were texting me. You're like, man, he needs a big run. He needs a big run. That was cool. So I really enjoyed that. Just a little insight into that.
I was doing a good Johnny Jinx. It was a positive Johnny Jinx. So
Right, that was fun, man. Obviously, we're up against time a little bit here, Brendan. So I'm going to rip through it. I will be 6-9 next time we're on the air on next Wednesday night. Patrick Mahomes will keep his 3-game streak going and will throw for at least 4 teeters against Las Vegas. So hey, plays into your juicy matchup. So you got to feel good about that one as well.
might have to
Another
revoke my juicy matchup after that. I don't know.
You might have jinxed it, man. So we'll see. Another TD streak. I'm going to say Antonio Gibson will find the end zone and go over 75 rushing yards this weekend against Cincinnati. His rushing yards been a little low, but I think he's going to have a good game. At least 75 and a teeter on the ground. Not total, but on the ground. And TJ Hawkinson will find the end zone this weekend against Carolina Panthers.
I like that, man. Even as a Bears fan, I like TJ Hawkinson. He's got a bright future. So great selections, man. It's going to be really competitive this week. You ready for mine?
Let's hear it.
Yeah, going off the juicy matchup, Patty Mahomes, man, is going to absolutely ball out. So I got him throwing 4 touchdowns this week. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it because it's going to happen. Then I've got Mike Davis will finish as a top 10 running back this week with Christian McCaffrey out. This is going to be a top 10 running back in a half PPR format against Detroit. He's currently projected to finish as the RB 18. Lastly, I've got my boy who I've been raving about recently. Christian Kirk will go for over 100 receiving yards and find the end zone at least once against the Seattle Seahawks. So what are we thinking, Tyler?
I like it, man. That's crazy that you and I both have Mahomes with 4+ TDs. Just so everybody knows, we don't know each other's hot takes before we come into tonight. And as we mentioned in the big league, Brendan, with being tied for second, currently I'm tied for second with you. And obviously, I'm sure you know I'm playing Christian Kirk this week. So definitely appreciate that hot take. You're always going for the jinx, man.
Hey, man, I'm about to start him over Allen Robinson in my big league too, my other one. So I like Christian Kirk, man. He's pretty underrated. So I think that he is going to play big. And yeah, as far as the hot takes, you guys, it's pretty interesting. This is the first time we've ever doubled up on the same hot take, but I think it's going to be a safe bet regardless. I mean, 4 touchdowns is not really a safe bet, but with Patrick Mahomes this week in a pretty nice matchup, that's a safe bet.
That's safe bet. Take it to Vegas.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah. All right. I love it, Tyler. Anything you want to say to the folks listening right now?
Just before we sign off, my final thoughts are, man, good luck to everyone out there this week. We're into the final stretch, as we've said, heading into playoffs. My best advice for you heading into the playoffs, needing wins here the last 3 weeks, is stop chasing upside. Set your best lineup. Take the points. Upside is great when it hits, but not so great when it doesn't. Look at a guy like Henry Ruggs, that type of player. Take your points. Lock up your best roster.
Couldn't agree more. And good luck to everybody. We'll see you next week. So stay smooth. Just remember, you're in this for life.